That was enjoyable, to say the least.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I expected after lunch. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Hultgren, and I want to say good afternoon. I come from the MLive Media Group. I'm the Director of Social Media and Content Marketing, and what they asked me to talk about today is this idea of attention, but before that, a little bit about how I even got to stage. This is a photo of me at 3 years old, moments before my parents were going to take me to Star Wars, the movie that would teach me for the rest of my life how to tell better stories. And then from there, I ended up going to Hope College and had a failed music career, mostly because of the terrible haircuts that you see behind us. But I fell in love with music at an early age, and so music was a part of what I did. And then after Hope College, I ended up in radio. And I didn't age for a long time, and then I aged really quickly. And while I was there, I ended up at a top 40 radio station. And when we were at this radio station, at one point, and for some of you in the room, you know how the story ends, at one point, a sales director comes to me and says, "Hey, we should do events." And so for all my event people in here, I feel your pain, right? Because doing events is some of the most uphill climbing marketing that you will ever do. But they wanted to do a concert, and I said, okay, fine. And prior to that, one of the things that I became really, really good at is noticing patterns. We were the first radio station in America to play Little John's Get Low. We were the first radio station outside of Seattle to play Macklemore. So I was getting on these trends as fast as they would happen musically. In fact, one of the claims to fame that follows me around for most of my time when people want to talk about what I did at that radio station is that I was able to book this gentleman for $1,000. And so immediately after he takes stage and all these screaming girls wanted to get his autograph, the promoter was like, "Hey, we should bring him back for a December show." And I said, "That's hilarious, he's $750,000 now, so you gotta get on that stuff earlier." The funnier part about this story is right before he goes on stage, he's like, at this point, he was not the bad boy, he was a sweet, tiny human being, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, do you wanna grab a photo?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good, I don't need a photo." So this is the only photo I have of Justin Bieber, even though I was hanging out with him. So I worked in radio for 20 years. I worked at every radio station that they had in Grand Rapids for the company that I was working for, and I got to the point that the last 5 years we were running an in-house digital agency. And then the company, iHeartMedia, took that in-house digital agency and wanted to do it on an enterprise level, and I had simply run out of runway. I'd run out of things to do, so it was time to find something else to do. So I found myself at the MLive Media Group. And that's where I am today, doing content and social media. And I tell you this story to set the context that you never really know where you're going to end up while you're doing this work, and you have to be open to new experiences. Sean and I have been talking about this all morning long. You will love his keynote later on this afternoon. I can't wait to see him talk. So it was time for a new adventure, and that's why I ended up at MLive, and that's how I ended up here. So today we're going to be talking about attention and the ability to scale content to get that attention. But in order to do that, we have to go back to 2005, a dystopian time before Facebook. And in 2005, I find myself in a city called Columbus, Ohio, and I'm competing in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament at the Arnold's. Yes, that Arnold. And in this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, I find myself in the finals. And if you don't know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, it's essentially ground fighting. It's submission wrestling. It's the stuff you see on the ground when you watch a UFC fight. That's what these guys are doing. And so I'm in the finals against a guy in a rival gym, and we get into a position where he leaves his arm in the wrong place. And I do what's called a triangle choke. You'll see here a triangle choke essentially creates a triangle with your legs, you pull down on his head, and he falls asleep. And so I have this move on him, and in my mind, it looks like this. It's super tight. And one of the best ways to get out of this move is something called power slam, where you lift the guy over your head and you slam him on the mat. You might have seen it in the WWE when they do it to all of their opponents. The thing about the power slam in jiu-jitsu tournaments is it's not legal for various reasons, not the least of which are the concussions. However, when you're in a fight, staged, competitive, or otherwise, Your amygdala is firing. When your amygdala fires, it makes logic really difficult. It's awesome to figure out where you shouldn't surf. It's awesome to figure out what parks you shouldn't visit. It is terrible for competition. It's just terrible. And so he is going unconscious, and his amygdala is firing very quickly. So he forgets that he will be disqualified if he slams me onto the mat. So as I'm going up in the air, I'm having three thoughts. The first thought is, I should tuck my chin so I don't get knocked unconscious. The second thought is, if I make it to the mat and I'm still conscious, I will win this tournament. The third thought is, he's going to slam me on the mat and I'm going to go unconscious. Perhaps I shouldn't care about winning. But he slams me down on the mat, I tuck my chin, I stay conscious, and I win the tournament. That's not the important part. For me, I have been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 6 years. And it was at that moment that I understood this core concept that I use with my clients. And it's this idea that technique always beats power. He was stronger than me, he was rougher than me, he was rough and tumble. But my technique was better, and I eventually ended up winning. Now, I had to suffer the powerbomb thing in order to win, but I won. And I use this with our clients over and over and over again when we use competitive spaces and whatever their budget is to deliver them the attention that they're looking for. And the first thing that we do if we don't have any data is we make some guesses about who the audience is. We understand who the people that we're going to talk to. We do this, I like to share this image because this is a talk I did 4 years ago. And I won't go through all the specifics, but you can see I was talking about jiu-jitsu even back then. There are a lot of things on here that you use over and over and over again. And over at this table, where most of the speakers have been all day, we've been talking about this idea that a lot of what we do is just a different veneer on things that you can repeat over and over and over again. The Phil Jackson basics win championships. And so we need to understand the audience. And in order to understand the audience, we need to understand who we're talking about and what they want to do and how they're doing it during the day. Because a lot of times, we just make some rude assumptions about when we should post because somebody once told us it was 9, 2, and 7, and so we do that over and over again. And when I was working at that radio station 8 years ago, somebody made the arbitrary decision that we should post every single hour on Facebook. Every single hour we had to put something, everybody in here was going, dear God, how did that work? It didn't. But 8 years later, they're still doing that. After I've left, they're still doing this every single hour, even though everyone in this room has seen reams of data to show you that that is the fastest way to plummet your organic reach to 0, is to post every single hour. So in March, preparing for a different talk, I grabbed 3 days of posts. Now this is a page that has 250,000 likes. And for 3 days, these aren't all the posts because I didn't want to bore you with a bunch of slides, but for 3 days, they got 0 likes, 0 comments, and 0 shares for 3 days with 250,000 likes. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea that you need to talk to everybody. You don't need to talk to everybody. You need to talk to the right somebodies. So you need to find, even if it's 10 people, you can still win with 10 people. Because what you don't want to do is post this all day long, right? This idea of posting hot garbage to get their attention. Like, if we go back, remember, this is a radio station that plays Flo Rida 300 times a day. Does anybody care, let's go to this one. Does anyone care about the emergency law in Kentucky to get a state lawmaker elected that's listening to Flo Rida and Taylor Swift? No. But somebody one time told them to post every single hour, and so they did. Which leads me to the next thing. It's putting some intention on that attention. Every single hour, every single minute I should say, in 2018, this is what's happening. My friend Lori Lewis puts this together every single year. There are 1.1 million swipes on Tinder, which is immediately where everyone's eyes goes to, because as a society we're clearly lonely, right? So we're swiping right all the time. But with all of this noise, there's this romanticism about trying to go viral. There's this romanticism about trying to get everybody's attention on your single piece of content, when that might not be the best play. When we look at the marketing funnel, I won't spend a whole bunch of time here because Well, because it's a marketing funnel. But at the top is brand awareness. That's what we were doing in the exercise today. No one knows the brand, then they know the brand. But the important parts happen down here in loyalty and advocacy. Because what we're not doing, even though there's 1.1 million swipes there, social is not the place, and Eric and Marcus talked about it this morning. Social is not the place to swipe right for conversion. It's a much longer trip. You're building a relationship, one step at a time. And how you do that is you focus on what your customers are interested in. And what I've been doing with clients since I've been at MLive is talking about this idea of questions. Every single one of you, no matter what you're doing, has an opportunity to meet a new customer. When that new customer enters your ecosystem, they probably have 5 questions. These 5 questions you've answered 100 times a day. You know those questions like the back of your hand. Over and over and over. If you're a bank, how much are your checking rates? What happens if I overdraft my, those sorts of things. There are 5 that every single new customer wants to know. When we're building content, we start with those first 5 questions, every single one of them. And we create content for those 5 questions until we're sick of it. Because one of the things that I see over and over and over again with brands is they think, okay, I made that piece of content that answers the question, done. And they forget that every single day somebody stumbles upon your Facebook page, and if that thing is 4 months ago, or 5 months ago, or 3 years ago, and you're not going back to it, you're missing an opportunity. Creating evergreen content that you continue to go back to because you have the same 5 questions is what is key in this space, because content is difficult. That's the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, is that we all hear that we should make content. Content is king. And without context and without a plan to scale it, it makes it really, really difficult to be successful. And the other thing is, and we were talking about this during lunch, is if you look at agencies, agency pages tend to be the worst tended to. As Dave said, if you haven't met him yet, you'll see him later on this afternoon. He said, you know, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, because we're focusing on what our clients need. And if you don't focus on your own brand, when a new customer shows up, they might not necessarily trust that you know what's going on in the social space, even if you're working with large-scale brands. If you look at what Jeff and his team are doing, they're making a reality show, right? There's doubling down on making a reality show, so that when customers come and see what Digital Mitten does, they know what these guys are like. And 2 things happen. 1, they go, those are my guys. I love what they're doing. Or 2, they're not for me. And both of those are wins for everybody involved, because the people that want to be in their ecosystem get a chance to meet them, and the people that aren't get flushed out before they have to go through the whole visioning process. And so we've been doing this since January. When I first came on at MLive, for the first 2 years, we were doing this, building content and running campaigns on email marketing and using pixel implementation and all of that stuff. And then we got busy. So for 1.5 years, we didn't do anything. Then we came to January of this year, and we thought we really need to eat our own dog food and double down on video. And so we did that. We picked the first 5 questions that everybody wants to talk about, and we created content over and over and over again. And for us, right now, it's a lot of questions about this. Because our customers want to know what's happening with their data. And they read headlines, and they go, I don't know what GDPR is. I feel like I should get off Facebook. I should stop everything. The world is on fire. And that's not true. But every single day, I get the same questions over and over and over again, and that tells me what content to make. I should continue to make GDPR content until people understand. And after May 25th, when GDPR goes into effect and people wonder why their third-party interactions with Facebook don't work anymore, we'll be there in the social ecosystem to answer the questions. And then once you've got those 5 nailed, once I'm done talking about GDPR and I have that stuff archived, we move on to the next 5 questions. And the next 5 questions, and the next 5 questions. And most people, when I get to this point, they want to talk about, what do I need to build? What do I make? Because everybody in this room, if you're not full-time making content for a company, then you've probably got 3 other full-time jobs as well as running a social channel. And when somebody asks you to make that video, or somebody asks you to make that white paper or that blog, you're like, dear God, I've got 100 other things I need to do. How do I do this? So you look at this pile of junk and you get paralyzed. You go, I mean, how do I get this content and get it out? How do I make this content? How do I find the time to do that content? Your amygdala fires. And then you do nothing. Because you gotta go do the other thing. You gotta make a conversion. You gotta sell a widget. You gotta move a car off a lot. You gotta get somebody to buy new carpet. Whatever it is you do, you gotta go do that thing, so you forget about content. And so last week, in preparation for this week, I did a keynote in Flint called What Can Fortnite Teach You About Keeping a Customer? And I broke it down into 4 pieces, and the 2 most important ones were give away your best stuff for free, and when you have people's attention, you've got to pay it off. When you've got their anticipation, you've got to pay it off. But I did this because what I really wanted to do for this specifically is show you what I made off of that single keynote. And so off of that single keynote, that single 45 minutes, I did the following. I made a Facebook Live. I posted an Instagram post of the notes that started the keynote because I'm giving away my best stuff for free. Because the trick is, guys, nothing up here that I'm doing is special. I'm just the one up here doing it. Every single one of you has a key aspect and a key thing you can teach this whole room. I want to give that away because I wanted to inform somebody else and them to trade back, right? Sean and I going back and forth all morning has been awesome for me because I've learned a ton from him just by hanging out with him. I want to do that for everybody else. I then edited down the keynote into 2 minutes and put it on Facebook and YouTube. So if somebody only has 2 minutes, they can get the gist of what I was talking about. I turned it into a 25-minute podcast for the Everything is Marketing podcast that MLive does. I then wrote it out into a 1,700-word blog post on LinkedIn, and I'm going to pause here for a second. Guys, if you make content and put it on LinkedIn, it's the easiest way to win right now because 0 people make content on LinkedIn. So when Eric and Marcus were talking about that beloved thought leadership thing that we're all looking for, go do that on LinkedIn. As I was joking this morning, you could put a puppet show on LinkedIn and get attention right now because no one is making content. So I put 1,700 words on LinkedIn. I then went to Twitch and did a 3-hour live stream of playing Fortnite that I edited down into a 15-second clip that I put on Twitter. Then archived the entire keynote on YouTube, so if somebody ever wants to come back to that, they can see it over and over and over again. One single piece of content turns into 8 assets that I shared across 6 channels. Same thing's happening today. There's a podcast that's going up as soon as I'm done talking. There's a video being made right now. There was a video blog that I was making all yesterday and making today. So again, we'll have this content everywhere. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, off of a single thing. And so think about your content in the way that you can use it in multiple platforms. And I do not mean linking up your Facebook to your Twitter to your Instagram. That's not what I'm talking about. All 3 of those are different languages, all 3 of those are different customers, all 3 of those should be treated differently because they're coming to that channel specifically for something different. What we're trying to do is meet the customer where they are. We don't live in a world where we can drag them kicking and screaming, I should say, towards our brand. We have to meet them where they are and treat them like they matter to us. So what I did with all of this data, I'll go back for a second, what I did with all of this data, especially Facebook and Instagram, is I started to gather an audience. And what I did with that audience is I went to Facebook. And this is something you can do even if you don't know how to do the pixel implementation of Facebook base pixels and event pixels and conversion pixels. This stuff is easy to do. I went to the engagement part and I started to build an audience. And I built the audience off of the Facebook page. So in the last 10 days, anyone who interacted with my personal Facebook page or the MLive Facebook page, I put them in 2 separate audiences. And I could do a bunch of stuff with them. I could ask them to come to this conference and see us speak. I could get them to sign up for a newsletter if that's what I wanted to do. Or I could send them to YouTube where we have a playlist of all our best social tips. Give that away for free. Because I'm bringing equity to them, I'm bringing value to them. They were screaming in the back about Gary Vaynerchuk. This is what he's talking about. Giving away your best stuff for free and then doubling down on that so that when you want to ask them for something, they already know who you are and they want you to be a part of what they're doing in their life. They want you to be their freelancer, their agency, their person of record, whatever that is. And here's the thing. Like I said, we went away from this for 18 months. And this is what happened since January, right? Engagement up 80%. Impressions up 71%. And it's been getting me in places that I wasn't able to get into before, to share the afternoon with guys like you, which has been amazing for all of us at the Live Media Group. And here's the other thing. When you double down on making consistent work, and then breaking that up into pieces and putting it all over the ecosystem, some really interesting stuff starts to happen. So since 2006, I have been in love with Twitter. And so in October of 2006, I was at a bowling alley. And I tweeted out, because I've got a music background, that this bowling alley, for whatever reason, was playing Rhymefest. And of the 100 people at this bowling alley, I was the only person who knew who he was. And I'm betting it's the same thing in this room. If you don't know who Rhymefest is, he is the most famous person in hip-hop you've never heard of. Grammy Award-winning, Emmy-winning, Oscar-winning. 3 days later, he goes, well, how does that make you feel? And so he and I have a conversation on Twitter. He then comes to my DM, says, I'd like to talk to you, sends me his phone number, and we start talking. For the first 2 hours, we talk about all the things happening in the social space. Let me stop for a second, because I think one of the things that we get in these rooms, and we think we have all the answers, our clients don't have all the answers. Our clients need our help on every level. Grammy Award winning, Emmy winning, Oscar winning, calling a guy in Grand Rapids, Michigan for advice about what to do with his Instagram. Everybody needs help. And again, if you don't know who Rhymefest is, his most famous thing that he ever did was he wrote Jesus Walks for Kanye West. And worked with Kanye West all the way till last year when Kanye went clinically insane. And so he and I got to talking, and we worked on a couple projects together. I helped him with the DJ Jazzy Jeff album that he just put out last Friday. And then he was working on a bigger thing, because this is actually what he wants to do, is he wants to be an actor. He wants to double down on that and build an audience of people that want to go see his projects. So he was in an Emilio Estevez movie, you can see him there, called The Public, all about the public library. He was a homeless man in this movie. And so he and I talked about all of these things that we could be doing in the space, and taught him about pixel implementation, and taught him about Google Analytics, because apparently I need to say that at a conference like this. But we taught him about all those things because I tweeted about a bowling alley. And so if you're out there doing the work all day long, some really interesting things start to happen. But one of the things that we don't want to do, and one of the things we don't want our customers to do, is this stuff. These are what I call the 5 unbreakable sins of Facebook right now. Because if your name is in Cambridge Analytica, this is actually what they're looking for. And you might say to me, but tag baiting and share baiting and all that stuff, look at the engagement I get. And since Deadpool opens tonight, let's just meet in the middle and say, no, it's not what you should be doing, right? And these are the things that they're looking at. And you've probably seen them. I have over 500 friends, and I assume less than 5% of you can see this post. If you can see it, just interact with it so I know. Or tag a friend Tuesday. Or pick one of the reactions and tell me which type of grilled cheese that you want. Or like if you agree to the image. Or my least favorite, share with 10 friends for a chance to win. These are the ones, guys, that Facebook is looking for to shut your page down. They have not had a good year, and they're hypersensitive about this stuff, as they should be, because this is a terrible, terrible interaction with your customer. It is not a way to build a brand, and they know it, and they want to do this to you every time you do it. Every single time. And so when we're talking about content, and I said it early on, and I'll come back to that, is we act like this is a new thing. We act like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are these new ways to tell stories. It's this crazy utopia that we finally landed on, where people will understand that stories make an impact. And so when we get to that point, I like to share this. It's one of my favorite things I actually have ever seen. This is a content calendar of sorts written by Walt Disney that he had in his office. And you can see all of it points back to the movies, which you might recognize because they have some pretty big ones, right? So all of these things point back to the movies. The magazines, the music, the theme parks, all of them point back to the thing that they want your attention on, because then they can merchandise off of it and rinse and repeat over and over and over again, right? And the reason I share this with you is not because, again, it's a groundbreaking idea to have a single service that we're driving all of our customers to. I share it with you because of what's happening in the lower left-hand corner. Walt Disney wrote this in 1957, right? So we got to stop acting like what we're doing is so groundbreaking and new, and focus on how to tell great stories. Focus on what Sean's going to tell you, because he's been there. And this idea of micro-storytelling is the future of the storytelling, in the same way that audio is the future of search. What he's doing is important, and you gotta focus on that. And so the next question I always get is, how do I get started? What do I do? Let's insert all the excuses. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough money. I'm gonna just give up, right? But here's what we've been doing. We've been breaking down our content from a video perspective, because that's the thing that's literally on fire right now, especially on Facebook that's at war with television. Anytime you can put a video up, you're gonna do way better than any other content that you put on Facebook, live or otherwise. So what we've done is we've broken it up into 3 tiers. The bottom tier is the stuff that you can make with your phone. I'm gonna show you in a second. The second tier is what we call the About Us video, where a team comes out with a DSLR and some lights and all the stuff and makes that thing you can put up on your client's website. And then above that is when we're making Super Bowl commercials, right? When we need something to end up on a mass medium that has to look super shiny and glossy to drive through to something else that you're working on. At the bottom level, though, is something that everybody in this room and everybody at the organizations that you work with can make. And they do that a couple ways. This is how I do it, and this is some of the products that I love to use. And I'm not sponsored by any of these guys, I just really love these products. The first one is a company called Moment, and they make these aperture lenses. You can see it on my phone right now. And I love these things. They connect to iPhones or Androids and open up the aperture on the phone so your stuff looks different. It looks better than everybody else that's taking pictures with their phone. It adds an air of professionalism that is super easy to enact. You don't have to know how a DSLR works. I don't have a photography background. I just love creating stuff, and so for me, this has been super easy. And then the other thing is a tripod. I use the Joby product because I like the Gorilla Pods because they connect to things, but go on Amazon, there's $6 tripods. But you want some sort of tripod material to keep your stuff steady, because again, it's not just that we want to make the content quickly and get it out to the customer so that they can consume whatever story you're telling. It's that we want it to have some sort of extra level than what the person who shows up at the event and snaps a whole bunch of pictures and puts them on Instagram looks like. The next one is, if you're anywhere that isn't outside, you need some sort of light. And sometimes lighting rigs can get cumbersome, and so I like this one. It's about the size of my wallet, and the company's called Aperture, and you can use them, and they're these LED lights that kick out a ton of light and make your stuff look great. And then finally, microphones. I have a lav that I use from Amazon that's like 20 bucks, and then I'm using right now as the Rode microphone that, again, you get. It's super inexpensive for what they do. And you take all of those things, and then if you've got it in your budget, this is another super amazing piece of technology. You've seen the DJI, I think it's a Mavic over there, drone flying around. They make a gimbal for cell phones that's mind-blowing. It's called the Osmo, and it makes all of that B-roll porn that you want for your vlogs look spectacular. And it's a pick up and go sort of thing, and I cannot say enough good things about this. And the other thing that I've been doing all year long is getting in the habit of making the content as quickly as possible so I can get the answers out to the customers. So if somebody asks me something today, I want a video out in 2 hours. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is on your phone. And I use GoPro Splice because they make a fantastic way to edit on your phone. There's no graphics on this, but again, if you've got, like I have stored an intro on my phone, so I've got the ability to create things that look high gloss super quick by using this product. Now, if you need graphics, and you're not a graphic designer, one of the easiest cheats that I like to use is Adobe Spark. They do video, they do page. I have not used the website thing, but the video and the posts, anytime you want to make something on Instagram, they can make it super quick. And again, you're creating content at scale, because that's where I find most brands get stuck, is they don't know how to make that stuff break into 5 or 6 pieces, and so they just stop, because making one piece feels like they're climbing Everest or Kilimanjaro over and over and over again. And one of the things that we continue to see, and Eric and Marcus talked about it this morning, is this idea of check the box social. You guys all have clients who you try and get them to commit to a schedule, you try and get them to create a content calendar, you try and get them to understand that if your client has customers who have an expectation, they have to meet that expectation. You cannot wake up at 8 a.m. and say, oh crap, I forgot to put something on the Facebooks, and call that a social strategy, right? We can't treat social like it's an oil change. It's that thing I've got to do every 3,000 miles. We can't do that. We have to commit to a strategy of building a relationship. And here's the secret about attention. The secret about attention is in order for you to get attention, you have to give attention. Any of you that are in a relationship understand this. If you ignored your husband or wife every week until Saturday when you have time to pay attention to them, your relationship wouldn't be so great. But we all have Facebook pages or clients with Facebook pages and Twitter pages and Instagram pages that have nothing on them in the last 7 days. There are people that are looking for that content. If you don't have it, they're gonna go someplace else. So the secret for attention is that you've got to give it first. You have to care about them first. You have to be there for them first. Have the questions answered before they even have them. When my wife was pregnant the first time, we had a million questions. And every single time we ended up on WebMD or Baby Center, we cried. Because their content is designed to scare the crap out of you, right? And if someone had been there, if the number of mommy bloggers 6 years ago was what it was today, than it was back then, we would go all in on whoever that was. Because that content that you see now is empathetic, it's caring, and it's from a point of understanding. It's not from a corporate mindset of how I'm going to sell diapers or cribs or whatever. They're trying to show you what it's like to have a first kid. The difference between having a first kid and a second kid, because they've been there, because they care about what you're doing and where you are at that point in your life. And so I want to leave you, and then I want to take some questions because I know that there are people in here that want to have questions, and so I'd love to do that. But I want to leave you with 3 thoughts. And the first one is this. You leave here today, and you get up tomorrow morning. What would happen if you treated every customer like they were the best customer you ever had? If you treated every single customer in your ecosystem like they were your idyllic customer, the one who spends the most, who interacts the most, who cares the most about your product. If you treated every single one of them like that, and then what if you treated their problems with empathy instead of disdain? What if you got up every single day excited about solving that problem instead of treating them like they're a nuisance because they emailed you? Or they're a nuisance because they asked a question about a product that they purchased that isn't living up to its expectation? Treated them with empathy instead of disdain. And then finally, what would happen if you started as a brand, a personal brand, an agency, a client, whatever? You as a brand started to create content that served your customer first and served you second. If you actually read Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces, if you actually read Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand, if you actually started to believe that your customer is actually the hero and created content that answered their question at every point along the customer journey, what sort of attention would you have then? Thank you. All right, do you guys have questions? And if you don't, that's okay. But I wanted to give the opportunity if somebody had a question.
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'll take liberty.
Oh, it's okay. You were talking about scheduling and stuff, but then you also mentioned, getting a question and then creating an answer for that immediately. What is the ratio of scheduled content versus like content that just kind of comes up, like if something's trending or if there's a question that comes up or?
Yeah, and so let me be clear, like we schedule our stuff out and then we tend to leave spaces for the serendipity to happen, right? But even with our clients and with the MLive Media Group, we schedule the stuff out. So one of my favorite tactics is, statistically speaking, people only change their habits on weekends and holidays, right? So I tend to experiment on the weekends and schedule all of that stuff out and go, let's try this new storytelling here, let's try this new question there, and on the weekends do that sort of thing. And then for Monday through Friday, walk through the questions 1 through 5. And then the next week, maybe we walk through Tuesday through Saturday, and then Wednesday through Sunday, so that we're hitting those people with those questions and getting them in the ecosystem. And again, depending on where you are in the buying cycle, once we've gathered that audience specific to Facebook, we've gathered an audience, then we can start serving them ads wherever we feel they are in the process, right? So to go back to the baby idea, found out we're pregnant, okay, now we need to figure out what that's all about, and then if the content points to the fact that we're now in the position to buy a crib. Now I'm going to serve them with some sort of ad on Facebook that will tell them 10% off or whatever. And maybe before that, I'm going to get them into my email newsletter by going, hey, it seems like you have a lot of questions about this. How can I get you to have more answers? Sign up for our newsletter. Now you know that they've come down the funnel further on. But I would always start with scheduling. But the scheduling, as couching that a little bit, the scheduling only works if you have a plan. Like, I would not recommend just scheduling posts. Right? To lean into what Sean's going to tell you later on this afternoon. Have a storyline and commit to the storyline, and leave some space for stuff to happen in your ecosystem, but have a story and a beginning, a middle, and end, and stick with that.
Do you have a sweet spot for how far out you schedule in advance?
I usually don't do more than a week, because again, I want to make sure, well, a couple things. Strategically speaking, Facebook has changed so many times in the last 21 days, and I don't think that's going to change. And so 7 days out has been a necessity, because I need to make sure that they didn't change everything. And I also want to make sure that I'm having another touch point with that customer to go, and this might not be for everybody, but for me, I really want to make sure that they are feeling the love and understanding what's working in social. So every week I'm checking in with them and going, these 3 posts were awesome, we probably need more video, let's do this, that, and the other thing, and rinse and repeat, so that by the time we get to the end of the month and we're doing month-end reporting, that's a much easier conversation, and honestly, it's a much easier opportunity for you to upsell at that point, because you over-delivered on what they purchased. They have a total understanding of how the campaign is working, as opposed to waiting to the end of the month and going, yeah, it didn't work. Let's try it again, right? So I use a week out and then rinse and repeat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know I just know you, but you probably don't even need that. But.
I know, but I figured if people, if anyone else wanted to hear me. You touched a little bit about people that have interacted with you personally or with MLive to then target them specifically for something that, like inviting them to this particular event. Can you touch a little bit more on how I find that and how I can implement that?
Sure. So in this particular sense, I used really high level, and I mean this lovingly, really high level dumb data, right? People who have interacted with the page that I knew nothing about, and then sent them whatever tactic. To answer your actual question, what I would do is have the pixel on the MMG site or the MLive site or my personal site and start driving them to the website to gather data that they took that extra step, to qualify them that they would even come to this, right? Because if I'm just doing a Facebook page, we all know that people can bomb in and bomb out of your life and not actually care, right? My mom clicking on a keynote of mine is not a conversion, right? What I want is somebody who went to the MMG website and maybe read the piece that I wrote. Now I know that you're in it. You watched 45 minutes, then you read a thing, you're raising your hand and saying that you are either in the space to find out more, you're you, right? Or you're in the space to hire us. And so I would start A/B testing creative to ask both of those questions, right? Do you want to learn more about marketing? Here's another thing that you can do. Here's a video we made about GDPR and how you can make content and how it's going to affect your data, right? And then over here, it's like, is the internet the most confusing thing that you've ever encountered? Awesome. Let's have coffee. Let's go hang out, right? And A/B test that stuff, and if they both work, keep them on, and if not, turn them off. Does that answer your yes?
Yes.
Cool. We got about 5 minutes left, so if you guys have questions, go for it. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Cool. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. All right, so after this, we're going into our afternoon breakout session. So similar style as the morning. This front room here is going to be government talk. Andrew from Michigan.gov is going to be talking on that point. And then in this room on this side, just around the corner, is going to be Amber. She's going to be talking about branding. She's from an agency down in Detroit. She used to be at Quicken Loans. So those are your 2 options for that. And then after that, we're going to have a single workshop, which is going to